Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my special guest for another episode of Dear Younger Self. This series is to have women collaborate about what they would tell their younger self if they could. All the lessons we have learned growing up and into this hood called adulthood. I thought it would be a good idea, as you all know, and especially if you've been following, to really have women who are empowering, who are in the space of professional and personal development, to share their one or two lessons, or three or four lessons that they have learned over the course and journey of their adulthood and what they would tell their younger self. So this is episode 5, not 10, 5, and I'm so excited to share that I have my sister, truly my sister-in-law. We married brothers, so we get to bond on all types of things, professional and personal. My sister Brenda Green, to share what her lessons have, what her lessons are. Brenda is an amazing wife, mother. She owns a fitness and nutritional coaching business, Fit for a Better Me. And she's a lot of things to a lot of people. So I am going to pass over the mic over to Brenda. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us.
Hey. Thank you for having me. I know we struggled with scheduling, but I'm glad we finally got we got together to have this conversation. I'm excited about this conversation. I've been listening to your other guests, and the conversations have been amazing. Being vulnerable and just really touching into that. And I've been relating to a lot of the other ladies as well. So thank you for having me as your guest. And you pretty much introduced me pretty well, I think.
Nice. I mean, after 14 years, I'm like, I have to do her, some service. But I think that's one of the key things with this too, that key word of being vulnerable, because sometimes we don't, right? As these strong women leading businesses and motherhood and being a wife, like sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable. So I thank you for sharing that word with us.
Yeah, and you know what? And just to continue with that word, that's not part of my lesson, but that's definitely something that I've struggled with. And growing up, being vulnerable wasn't something that I saw. As my mother, I grew up in a single parent household, and my mother had to be strong. There was no vulnerability. There was no, and there was no vulnerability. There was no like, that care and there was care, but there wasn't that compassion. There was survival. That's what I saw. The word is survival, because all you saw was like working, making ends meet, trying to make ends meet, going back to work, coming home, doing this, doing that, and just really that survival mode.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of room or growth for that emotional side of life growing up. And that's something that and and I'm laughing because I told you I was gonna let kind of the spirit lead me where the
And here we are.
go.
Yes.
And here we are, and it's like perfect, because that has the fact that I didn't get and not to say that my mother's not loving. My mother adores me and will do anything for me.
Oh, I
But when it
know.
comes to that affection and that type of love, I didn't receive that. To this day, we still joke like, oh, she's crying. Oh my God. Like, she has emotions, because that's not something that she allowed herself to show ever. Like, I'm 42 going on 43, and I could count probably 2 or 3 times that I saw my mother cry.
Wow.
Showing that emotion. And growing up in a household like that, that's something that I now as an adult didn't realize. Like, you have to show that vulnerability. You don't always have to be strong. And that has caused, some rift in my marriage, and even with relationships and friendships and things of that nature, because I never allowed myself to be that vulnerable. And
Wow.
that's something that I struggle to this day. So to tell my younger self, the lesson that I'm learning now is definitely is just be vulnerable. It's okay to not be the strong person all the time.
Mm.
You know, even in college, I was Mama Brenda. Like I was always overseeing everybody. I was always making sure everybody was good. I never let my guard down. Um, and the times that I did, they were rare and far in between. And it's something that it was just never in my comfort level. And to this day, as an adult, that's definitely something that I've struggled with, but it's something that I'm aware of now.
Yep. I was just gonna say you are aware of it,
Exactly.
having that awareness.
It's having that awareness of, you know, you have to be vulnerable. So sometimes, and I also understand as an adult, I've learned you have to be uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Mm.
So I am aware enough in myself to notice, okay, this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation, or even an uncomfortable, you know, just anything that will make me uncomfortable, even with, you know, physical touch, or, you know, whatever that may be uncomfortable at the moment. And that's something that I've allowed myself to feel, that uncomfortability, just so I could start getting more comfortable. And it has gotten a whole lot better. The difference, you know, I see it with the way I am with my daughter. So kind of breaking that cycle of being always strong, of noticing, you know, allowing her to see me make mistakes,
Yep.
allowing her to see me be vulnerable from time to time. Not necessarily, I don't want to say like cry, but just see me in an emotional state, whether it's being extremely happy, or just being sad, or just upset, because now I'm in tune with my own emotions, and allowing her to see how I deal with my emotions
Yeah.
has been pivotal. And
That's
just go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's just awesome because you talk about survival with your mom and her being just on the go, having to survive, very laser focused. And that didn't allow her, some probably didn't allow her to also process everything. She was just on
He was
a
on deck.
hundred all the time.
Mhm.
And then also to ensure she was protecting you guys from whatever she was experiencing. Um, Whereas now, so that transferred over to you, right? And you seen the strong woman constantly, and then you're like, that's how kind of I have to be. And
Yeah.
although it may have been difficult for you to like, hey, why don't I have this kind of nurturing kind of energy? You understood it.
Yeah.
And now
Absolutely.
with the awareness, you're able to change that
Mhm.
in your family. And I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think you're in survival mode, right? You have a husband, you have a family, you guys are doing really well for yourselves, but just that transfer of energy is still there. It's kind of ingrained in you.
Absolutely. So yeah, I definitely not living in survival mode, but definitely on the grind mode. And I have to remember
Mm.
that you could stop. Like, this is not, I'm not my mother. And I have said that to myself a lot throughout the years as I became an adult. Um, the other, and just to transition, the other lesson that I've learned now that I'm an adult, and again, you know, your foundation just comes so much from how you grew up and how much you bring over. And one of the things was like, again, seeing my mother being superwoman, she did it all, absolutely doing it all. And as I became older, I will never forget, like when I first moved in with my husband eons ago, I thought I had to be the superwoman, do it all. I had to clean the house. I had to cook the meals. I had to laundry. Mind you, I'm in school getting my master's degree. I have a full-time job and I'm doing all that. At this time, we don't have any kids. And I am going nuts serving and doing all these things because that is my love language, similar to my mother, is serving.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what I needed to do because that's what I saw my mother do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful for my husband. And he sat down and told me, he was like, you don't need to do all this. I'm a grown ass man.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all of this on your own. Like, you don't need to cook every day. You don't need to do all. And it was like, really?
Yeah. It was a shock. Huh?
Because I didn't see anything different. I saw my mother do it. I saw my grandmother do it. I saw my aunties do it. I saw like everyone around me. This is just what they did. You serve your husband. So I didn't know anything different until he said that to me.
And them eating last too. You serve your husband, your kids, whomever, and then
Yeah.
by the time they're served, like our
Yeah.
parents didn't eat or they eat last.
Yeah. So it's interesting that I saw that, but he allowed me to, gave me, and I'm going to say this like, it's just the only way that I could, like, gave me the permission to let go. It's okay.
Oh,
Just kind of
makes me
like,
emotional.
yeah, just like, it's okay. You don't have to do it all. I prefer you sitting here on the couch and we're chilling and talking as opposed to making sure that all the dishes are done
Yeah.
and spending this quality time. That means more to him
Yeah.
than for me was like, the house needs to be spotless and has to be, and it was, and I was driving myself crazy. I was literally going nuts because you can't carry it all.
Yeah.
And as I got older and we and our lives got more, more complicated, bringing kids in and moving and different jobs and all this other things, like I always kind of kept that in the back of my mind, um that I didn't have to do it all. And then I came in front, our mother-in-law, early on in our marriage, she straight up told me, she was like,
Take that
I
keyboard.
can't do it all. That was her line. I
Yeah.
can't.
Still is her line. Yep.
It's her line. Like if she dropped the ball on something, she'd be like, I can't do it all.
Yep.
Listen, that has been quoted all over this house all the time. Woman, listen, I can't do it all. And what I realized now, like that's just giving yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Giving yourself some grace to be is okay because you're doing a lot already. And now that I've gotten, older, there's certain things that I don't do anymore. Like, and I was just having this conversation with my husband a couple weeks ago. Um, so we have someone who cleans our house. So I run a business. I have a 9 to 5. We have our daughter. Um, he has, he travels and all that stuff. So we have somebody who cleans our house weekly. And I remember when we first got her, I was strategic in scheduling her when I wasn't physically in the house. And I was just having this conversation with him. He was like, why would you do
Okay.
that? Like, I strategically scheduled her when I was not home. There was a shame that I had someone doing a job that I was supposed
Supposed to be
to do.
doing. Yeah. I mean, I get that because when we have our cleaners come, we're not weekly, but I would clean the house first. Like I would go over things, place things, and I'm
And
like,
I
why
still
am
do
I
that.
cleaning when we are hiring cleaners to clean our house? Like, but you're the shame because we're
The shame.
supposed to be doing it all. That's an aha moment for me. Like for me, it was embarrassment, but embarrassment and shame are two different things.
Yeah. For me, it was shame that I couldn't handle it. Why can't I do this part of what I'm supposed to do or what society says I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
And that was big because then I hear my mother
Oh yeah. Oh, I know, girl.
more
Trust me.
fire on, well, you don't even have time to clean your house, making me
Yeah.
feel bad.
Yeah.
And that took a long time. Now me and my cleaning lady, we cool. We be having conversations. I be in here. She knows she's been with us for years now at this point.
Yeah.
We have conversations. I've gone over that and realized like that's one of those situations where I said, you know what? I'm not my mother. she didn't have a business. She didn't have a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a job, but that was it. When she came home, that she had nothing.
Yeah.
She didn't have a husband at that point either.
Yeah.
She only had the two of us, which is me and my brother. So I had to remind myself, I'm not my mother, and this is a different time.
So what would you tell your 14, 16-year-old looking back now? Like, obviously you didn't know that, like you were, I don't want to say idolizing, but you looked up to your mom. You knew that there were certain things that she was on in terms of like on top of, cooking, cleaning, laundry, taking care of you and your brother, those kinds of things. What would you say? Like, you don't have to be Superwoman, 16-year-old Brenda.
The 16-year-old Brenda was like, you're not going to be your mother.
Okay.
Your path is different, and it's not going to look the same, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to be better.
Yeah. Which is what she wants for you anyway.
Absolutely.
She loves you, adores you. She's always there.
Super proud of me. And
even when we go over.
Everything. Like, but because it looked different than hers,
yeah,
there was certain situations she couldn't understand. But now, in turn, like, I have taught her that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
Even with the example of the cleaning person, like, I tell her, Mom, I can't handle it. Like, first of all, this house is a lot bigger than what you had to clean.
Yeah.
And you had me. You
Yeah.
had me to help you. So this is my help, and this is the way we do it. And she understands that because, it's just a different time. I'm a different person than she is. And it took a long time for me to embrace that. To make, kind of like be okay with all of it. And now I'm just like, I don't care who thinks, what you think.
So I want to say this because my mom, like, we have these conversations all the time. My mom is similar in certain aspects where the Superwoman thing, we've had the same conversation about when I got married. Like, she was like, you got to be the love. Like, she added the lover and the friend and this and that. And me and Sterling had that similar conversation about the cape. And, our mother-in-law, like you said, reminds us all the time. Like, she'll straight up tell me, like, you look tired. Did you take your vitamins today? I'm like, oh, gee, thanks. I am tired. But she'll remind me. But I think for us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, I always sought out my mom's validation because she was the only adult that was consistent in my life. So her word was like the Bible, right?
Absolutely.
So whenever as adults now we feel like we're disappointing them, it hurts us at the core. If they don't agree with something that we're doing, it's like, dang, she doesn't like, she's not validating me, she's not approving of it. So I'm glad you got to that point where you're in tune to your own feelings and how you're maneuvering your family and not catering to your mom's kind of perception and ways of doing things. And I think that takes a lot of courage and understanding that there's just different personalities, just different roles and different household dynamics, right?
Yeah.
So that's such a beautiful thing because you see your growth throughout the years and throughout the journeys of that, and you have the support across the board.
Yeah, and that's definitely, I love that you use validation. I don't think I've really ever used that with my mother, but I think that's what it was. Yeah. I was looking for her validation, her approval with everything, even with like decorating my house. Like, if she didn't like it, then okay, maybe I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like that.
My mom used to be like, "You're so corny. You don't like that?" I'm like, "No, Mom." And then I stopped like telling her what I did. Like,
yeah, because when you realize, like, I don't like the same things you do. Like, that's just not where I'm at. So it's interesting. Like, yeah, I think you do see your growth. I've come a long way where now she just kind of gives me my space, and we understand we're just not in I think she understands that I'm different. than she is. And I understand she has her ways, and it's okay.
It's
There's
okay.
no less. We just do things differently, different generation. Um, you know,
Now you're passing the torch with your baby too, that generation.
and that generation's also different. So now I'm like stuck because now I'm the parent, and how do I navigate this with my own daughter? Being different because she's totally different than I am.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating at times, but I'm starting to learn and kind of give her that space and understanding that I really, I don't want her to use me as her validation. Um, because she's definitely different than I am. And it's I'm trying to navigate that
Mm-hmm.
in so many different ways. Um, but I'm open to it, unlike my mom. But she just you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you don't know. And now,
And you're teaching her. You're teaching her that I can be different. I'm not your twin. I don't have the same brain, and I have seen flexibility with that in terms of her just like not even saying anything. She probably thinks it, but she doesn't even say it anymore.
yeah, we've definitely grown. So I'm proud of her too for just growing as well and not nagging, instead of, because it could be very easy to lose your relationship with your child when you guys don't agree, when you're so hard on whatever you're setting your boundaries, like
Yeah.
what you feel is correct. But my mom has definitely allowed room for growth in herself too, and just seeing things different and accepting it, like kind of seeing like, okay, that makes sense once I've explained it to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she gets it. We're just not in the same place. um but yeah, it's so interesting.
That's such a beautiful, it's just beautiful. And we can keep going down the line, her parents, what they taught her, how that transferred over to you, and how it's transferring over to your baby, your daughter. She's not a baby. She would
Yeah.
yell at me if I said she was a baby. She's almost as tall as I am. But thank you so much for sharing. Do you have any last comments, questions, thoughts?
No, this was great. I'm so glad I just let the spirit lead me to the conversation, because I think it came out really good.
You said vulnerability. I was like, hold
Yeah,
on, let's use that little,
yeah,
and then
that
you
was it.
took it
That
away. Yeah.
Yeah, that vulnerability is so important, and I continue to grow in that space of vulnerability. It's still hard for me, but definitely I'm in a much better place with that. Just having those conversations, even the conversations you and I have, um, we get really deep easily.
Then we sit at your dining room table or go into your office and
Yeah,
it's healing too. It when you're brainstorming with other women, that's why I love this series, because we all come from different backgrounds, experiences, and things of that sort. And how many young teenagers or young women we can help in their 20s or not, early teens, and they're thinking they got it all figured out. I know I thought I did. And then as you
girl,
continue to grow,
girl.
you learn so many cool things. And we talked about self-love. Now you introduce vulnerability. We've talked about just smiling more and accepting yourself for who you are. And although it may take people time to get to that point, at least if they hear your stories and the stories of the other women, they're like, they kind of put it in their back pocket for a rainy day. So
it's
super dope.
definitely it's definitely work. You have to be open for it to change and realize you have to just be open to grow.
Yeah.
um and it takes time, just with anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it just takes time, but having that awareness is so important, and just putting in the work every day and just being aware.
Yeah.
It's hard. It ain't easy.
Amen.
So I'm not where I used to be, and
That's it.
I'm not where I'm going to be. So
Yeah.
I do
Love it. So Brenda, tell us where we can find you if we want more information about fitness, about you personally, fitness, nutritional coaching. Um,
Yep. So you guys could find me on all social media platforms at fitforbetterme.com. That's FIT, the number 4A as an apple, better me. On Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on TikTok from time to time. And definitely you could visit my website at www.fitforbetterme.com. And that's where all my fitness and nutrition coaching is takes place.
Yeah, and she has a very amazing, inspiring story. So you guys have to go visit her pages, check her out. Huh?
I said it's somewhere on my page. Yeah.
Even your videos, though, your IG, you have some stuff on there. So thank you so much, sis. I know it's late, but thank you for making the time for us and for me and for whoever's watching. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, talk to you later.